All right, guys, I know that about 25% of you did read Banduro's Bobodal study, and the other 75% of you did listen to somebody tell you about that study. However, because this study is so important and so vital when we talk about observational learning, I'm also going to spend a little bit of time having us dig into it. So what we're about to do is watch about a 5.5-minute video about Banduro's Bobodal study. While you're watching the video, I want you to take note on the questions that I have on this slide. So you may want to go ahead and pause this video and write down the questions, leaving a little bit of space so that you can answer them as you watch the video that comes up. So it gave us a little bit more of an insight into Banduro's Bobodal study, why he did it, and maybe what implications it might serve. So I asked you before watching the video to write down these different questions and your notes to jot down some of the answers. Okay, so with that, right, he did it because he really was interested, particularly in that violence and what was the link between what children and what people were observing and how that impacted their behavior, right? It is really, really interesting to note that a study that was done, right, between the United States and Canada found that homicide rates doubled between 1957 and 1974, which is the same time period in which television was introduced and became widespread. During that time, kids were watching all kinds of, TV murders and other violent acts, and they found on average about 8,000 TV murders and 100,000 other acts of violence before they ever even finished elementary school. Again, this is correlational data, but it is an interesting correlation to think about and note, which has been backed by tons of other studies. Okay, so again, we know how he carried out the study. What he did was he had some students observe an adult beating the bejesus out of the Bobo doll, and watched other things. And then he put the child in the room alone with the Bobo doll to see what their behavior was, right? So the independent variable here would be what it was that the child observed, what type of behaviors they were watching the adult carry out, how they watched those behaviors, and our dependent variable would have been the actual behavior of the child when put in the room alone with the Bobo doll. Right, and the study did found, right, that it did support the understanding that children very often mimic the things that they see in their own environment. Again, indicating that observational learning really is a thing, and it does have a pretty decent impact, or could have a decent impact. All right. With that, the last thing that I want us to look at, talking about observational and cognitive learning, is reciprocal determinism. And I'll bring this back and I'll talk about it a couple more times before we're finished. All of the content at the end of April. But reciprocal determinism is this idea that, right, all of these factors within a person's life are continuously interacting and engaging with one another. So again, you can't necessarily determine what was the root causal factor because so many things are interacting at once. So what this is suggesting is who you are as a person, right, determines how you behave, but also the environment in which you put yourself in. Okay, the things you choose to watch, right? So as an adult, right, are we more violent because we watch violent television, or is it because we are violent and aggressive that we like violent television, right? Again, correlation, not causal, right? So who you are determines the environment that you put yourself in and the way that you behave. But in a reciprocal relationship, right, the environment that you're in has the ability to impact your behaviors as well as to impact who you are as a person, right? How you behave in your environment changes how your environment behaves with you. So I want you to recognize when we talk about observational or cognitive learning, right, that it isn't a one-way street, that we have these three very important factors that are continually interacting and engaging with one another. And with that, that is the end of our direct lecture or instruction for the day. The next thing that you'll see within the Schoology folder is a reminder to complete your AP classroom assignment on observational learning. If you haven't already done the reading in your textbook on that topic, I would probably do that before you take the assessment. Have a good one, guys. I'll see you in a couple days.